We're alive. Yes, we are live on Periscope. And I got a crying baby in the background, but it's okay. We'll worry about that. Alright. Okay, welcome to another edition of the Earnest Speaking Podcast. I'm your host, Earnest, EJ Christian of NGSC Sports.com, where we never stop. I'm really excited about today's podcast because it's first timer on here for number one. I love having first timers on the show, for newbies as I call them. He's possibly America's best sports blogger. Very funny guy. Find his work at NGSCsports.com or at SammySportface.com. Sammy Sportface is with us. Hey, how you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing great. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, man. I really enjoy your work. Really. Like, you're different from all the bloggers I follow in the industry. Like, in the sense that you're very creative. And, I mean, you pretty much, like, write short stories, in a sense, if you will. About anything. Nothing's off limits for you, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. I just kind of let it fly. And I don't want to talk about, who won the game last night and, what the score was and things like that. I'm not even drawn to that. I'm drawn to the unusual, the spontaneous, basically anything I think that I think is funny or offbeat or silly or unusual, I'm going to go with that. And the whole point for everything I'm doing is really to just make people laugh and entertain and not necessarily take these things too seriously and not to be too worried about the truth. I think that's a differentiation for me. Most journalists and bloggers are concerned pretty much with the truth, and I'm only mildly interested in the truth, as it relates to whatever I think is funny.
Now, whenever I have a first time on the show, I like to get myself, number one, as well as our listeners, and to get to know their background. So let me ask you this: how did you start getting to writing? How long have you been writing, doing this whole thing?
Well, Sammy Sportface probably started about a year ago. I was posting blogs on NGSC Sports, and they wanted to create a special section, and they started creating. They came up with the Sammy Sportface name and put it in a special section, and then it grew from there. So everything that gets posted is Sammy Sportface. And what I ultimately ended up doing was collecting a lot of the Sammy Sportface, let's say the best of Sammy Sportface, as well as a number of other essays I've written about politics and everyday life, and combine them into essentially a book of, let's say, about 45 essays. And that's called Wipe That Smile Off Sammy Sportface, available on Amazon.com. And it is a collection of essays, and a lot of them have to do with sports. A lot of them have a little bit to do with sports. A lot of them have all to do with sports. But one of the things that happened was this whole Donald Trump thing really just took over. It's actually taken over the sports world in the sense that it's become more entertaining than a lot of sports. In sports, right? And,
right.
In fact, Marco Rubio was a college football player, actually, and I know Donald Trump was a high school athlete. I haven't gotten to that, but I'm probably going to get to that in a future blog of those guys, and so the whole Donald Trump thing kind of took over, and I started writing about that quite a bit as it relates to sports and illegal Mexicans and the NFL, and so I bring in sort of whatever I'm hearing on the radio that morning, to be honest with you, on on any radio station that are talking about the topic of the day, and oftentimes something piques my interest. But I didn't see the Donald Trump thing coming. It kind of overtook. I think it's overtaken the sports world in terms of
especially now with football being done, and right now, let's face it. I mean, I'm an NBA diehard, but we are right now in the dog days of the NBA season. So anything's game at this point now. Anything can distract us.
Yeah, and we got a couple weeks before March Madness.
Yeah.
I think maybe a great example of how I don't write normally is I think last year my preview of the March Madness tournament, I had 4 seeds, and one was Johnny Appleseed, and one was Pumpkin Seed, and ridiculous stuff like that. And I remember the Johnny Appleseed one because I didn't even know who Johnny Appleseed was, other than I knew his name and I thought it fit. And then I started making up stuff about who he was. But if it strikes me as different, I'm probably going to go with it.
Well, this book, I got a copy of this book last week. I love it. I didn't finish the whole thing, but I went through some of the random thoughts on here. Before I ask you a question about the book, what inspired you to write this book in the first place?
It's interesting. I've been writing for 25 years about sports, and I actually wrote a book about 10 years ago, which couldn't have been more different. It was about inspiration, and actually came out of the 9/11 incident and wanting to inspire my kids and, show that there was hope in the world. Quite serious, quite inspirational, somewhat spiritual. And then I wanted to go in a totally different direction. And so I've been writing a lot of these, humor essays. But my sister is kind of a fan of mine, and she said, you ought to compile these into a book. And I said, well, you really think they're that funny? And she said, yeah, I do. And so that inspired me. And then about 6 months ago, I really started working hard on getting the 45 that we wanted, and then really editing them pretty hard over the past 6 months. And then it was rolled out on December 6th or 7th when it became available. One of the interesting points about this is that Sammy Sportface is going to be writing more books. In other words, the first one, Wipe That Smile Off Sammy Sportface, is the introduction or the debut. But more things are going to be happening with Sammy, and new angles to his life and story. And he wants to be America's best sports blogger, and he claims to be possibly the best, right? The interesting thing about that is there are probably 850 million sports bloggers out there, and what an absurd pursuit to try to be the best, especially when you can't be doing it all day long, right? You got other things you got to do, and you got other responsibilities. So how are you going to be the best when other sports bloggers are probably doing it maybe more of the day than you are? So it's an absurd pursuit, and Sammy's kind of absurd, right? He writes absurdly, his goals are absurd.
Right.
His life is absurd, and yet he's ferociously focused on what he wants to accomplish.
And yet I'm willing to bet you that none of those bloggers at all actually write the way you do. I mean, I can guarantee you can take, there's maybe about 10% of those bloggers who actually write the way you do it in terms of the satire and just the diversity of what you bring to the table. Because I know for a fact, I follow a lot of bloggers, and I don't know any that are doing what you're doing now, at least to your level.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that that feedback. It comes naturally to me. It's just the way I like to write. It's fun. I am trying to be different, but I've been a sports writer, high school sports and all that, and I was never really interested in the play-by-play of the game, right?
Right.
I would always try to get to somebody who was, oftentimes it wasn't the star of the game or the person who scored the touchdown I was interested in. I was interested in something else, some other way to write about it that was different. And I'm glad to hear you say that not many people are doing it this way. But I'm going to be doing this. Sammy Sportface is going to be pursuing this dream, not for 6 months, not for a year, not for 3 years, for the rest of his life. This is what he loves to do. This is his wheelhouse. It takes a long time for people to find their wheelhouse, but this is my wheelhouse. I've done a lot of different types of writing, but this is where I want to go. It's because I think more than any other time when you're writing anything that I've done, you actually start laughing in the middle of the sentence that you're writing, and that's a lot of fun because
I can tell that. I can tell based. I can tell based on the. You have to, because based on the stories. For example, well, first off, the first one I wanted to ask you, the Billy Joel piece. You said other than Piano Man, that everything else he does is overrated. Do you really believe that, or is that just shock value?
That's a good question. I kind of mixed in what I really think with what I really don't think, or just to stretch the truth.
Okay.
In that particular case, I don't like anything of Billy Joel really, except that song. And I really mean that, actually.
Okay.
And I've been told by some people who read my stuff is they're like, it's interesting because some of it has a ring of truth to it because it's tied to something that's going on, and then some of it you can't tell if it's true, and then some of it you know isn't true. And so it has a lot. It has a lot going on, and there's a laziness to this, right?
Right.
I've done real hardcore journalism, and I don't want to do that because you have to be precise, and when you have to be precise, a lot of times the writing gets more turgid. I don't want to do that, and I don't have to. Sammy Sportface is his own thing, and he doesn't have to do this. And this is the most liberating way to do it. I will say one thing that I don't know if you read the Caitlin Bruce Jenner.
I was actually going to get there. I was just going to get to the next thing that came out. The two things that really spoke out was the letter from Bruce Jenner to his sixth grade teacher.
Yeah, you could do that sixth grade teacher with a lot of people if you think about it.
You
could do it with Trump. You could do it with Trump. And I'm going to grow up and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to start insulting everybody and make billions of dollars. But in the case of Jenner, that guy or girl or whatever, that story is absolutely unique. Nobody's ever lived a life like that. First of all, how many American decathlete gold medal winners are there? Probably about, 10 in the world ever.
Right.
At that. And I guarantee the other 9 did not change their sex. So this guy is like in a class by himself, and quite frankly, he's very, he's easy to joke about.
Yeah. And you go through the entire history, like of what he actually did do, go through, the divorces, and you go through the Kardashians and all that. I mean, there, like I said, there is a lot of truth to what you said there. A lot of the truth is actually out on the table.
Well, the interesting thing with Ralph Garcia, as you know, is the leader of NGSC Sports, he has never, ever changed one word of anything I've submitted.
Ralph's good about that. Ralph's very good about that, just for the record. That's why we love him.
and I love that. He says that it makes his day just to spend a little time reading something by Sammy Sportface, because he says you have no idea what's coming in terms of the topic. And there are no rules with Sammy Sportface. In other words, he doesn't have to write about sports. I like writing about sports. I understand it, but I don't have to. I could write about, whatever, sitting in the McDonald's drive-through. I could write about politics, and he's never put any constraints whatsoever on that. It's completely wide open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
You do like that?
No, I love that he's open about that kind of stuff. He's really open about it.
Do you think people going to the site are disappointed when they see politics when all they want to see is sports?
Well, first off, I'm sure there's some of that out there. First off, I write about politics on my site. I have a section on the website, which I'm about to promote in a second. And I write about politics, and to me, I look at it. I've always said for years, I look at politics, especially every 4 years campaign season, as like a sport, almost like a sport. Like, okay, analysis. I look from an analysis point of view, like, Jeb Bush. You should, like, I wrote a piece about Jeb Bush last week that, he was doomed from the start. It's like saying, well, when this team came to training camp, they were doomed from the start. Same thing. I thought Jeb Bush was doomed from the start from the campaign because he had no energy whatsoever. He was lethargic from the word go. I mean, that's why I don't get to the X's and O's in terms of like, oh, well, this bill's repassed. I don't get to all that. I think that's something that's beyond what people really care about, really, at the end of the day. But in terms of the analysis of the race and Super Tuesday coming up tomorrow and all this stuff, I think some people do care about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. And, you're looking for a refreshing take on things. And most important is, why do I do this? I want to make people laugh.
Yeah, of course.
And if I think it'll make people laugh, I'm probably going to go with it. Sometimes probably I think it's funnier than they do, and sometimes they think it's funnier than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Sammy is put on this earth to make people laugh and entertain them, maybe educate them a little bit. I do have one guy, Larry Bird is Sammy Sportface's guy forever and ever, right? And there was an interesting thing I saw just 2 days ago, was comparing the statistics of LeBron James and Larry Bird at the age of 30, and actually Bird comes out ahead on scoring average, rebounds, assists. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that, and it's funny, I had a discussion with my family. My family is like all sports nerds like myself, and we had a big debate last week about that. And I really hate those comparisons. I really do, because I think it's so small-minded. It's so simple. Because everything is circumstantial also. Like, you're not weighing the fact that LeBron James played half a year without Kyrie Irving last year too. Not weighing the fact that Kevin, that was the first year with that team. Whereas Bird was now year number 8 or 9 with the Celtics at that point.
Yeah, I think the more I think about those two guys, they are really close. In terms of basketball players and how great they were. I mean, they're very close. They're very similar players. The other day, someone said that, but LeBron had to play the point a lot, and that's a really good point. And so you can't score as much, you can't rebound as much because you're further away from the basket.
Very true.
I think Bird probably could have been a good point guard too.
He was a great ball handler, great passer too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those two guys are really interesting comparison. They're very close, I think, in terms of all-time greats. And you think about it. I mean, they're pretty close to almost the same players in a lot of ways. I think Bird's a little better shooter. LeBron is more athletic and more explosive to the basket. But those are guys. You'd be hard pressed to pick one of those guys over the other.
All right, let's do a quick ad read. Quick ad read, because today's podcast is presented by the new Earnest Speaking website, which is now up and running, and presented by the good people at NGSCsports.com. You can get my blog, videos, podcasts, and all my content in one-stop shop now at earnestspeaking.co. Once again, that's earnestspeaking.co. No M in the .com, because there was no .com available. That stinks. Once again, the new Earnest Speaking website up now and running at earnestspeaking.co. And once again, a huge thank you to our presenting sponsor at NGSCsports.com. Thank you, Ralph and Kyle. Appreciate it. Now back to the podcast. All right. I want to discuss a couple things real quick before we get you out of here. Because you actually are a big Redskins fan. And a lot of your work that I remember hearing from the early days, a lot of it was Washington Redskins related. Or wait, first of all, do you get offended by saying the word if I say the name Redskins?
No, not at all. Do you?
No, I'm making sure. I've said like 5 times in my during the question. No. So
no, I don't have any problem with it.
No. I guess your stance is what? You don't really care whether they're named Redskins or not. You don't follow that whole dribble about the name.
No, I mean, this is probably a good case of Sammy Sportface. He doesn't get too involved in like real serious political discussions. In fact, this one's kind of a close call, and recognizing that some people are offended by it, that's fine. I wouldn't care, frankly, if they named the Redskins somebody else. It wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't lose any sleep about it at all. In terms of historically, grew up a Redskins fan and remember the grand old days in 1972 when they went to the Super Bowl the first time and all that. The Redskins are in my blood, but quite frankly, I haven't lived in that area for a long time and fallen in love, or at least close to falling in love, with the New York Jets.
Oh, no. I know you're not a Giants fan because you've written some things in the past about the Giants, and full disclosure, you already know where I stand. You're not really a big Giants guy. A lot of it has to do with the Redskins, obviously, being the rivals and all that stuff. I get that.
No, yeah, the Giants are my least favorite franchise in all of sports, and that includes the Cowboys.
Wow.
Mostly because
and you're on my podcast, too. This is awesome.
when I was on, growing up, and Parcells was playing against Joe Gibbs, and every time the Redskins came up to East Rutherford in Meadowlands, the Redskins would lose. I bet the record in Giant Stadium is.
And what's wrong? And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Drove me insane.
I know. I think that's about the Eagles. That's not even the Eagles. The Eagles, to me, are the most hated team for me in sports as well. And because even though they haven't won a Super Bowl, thank God, at the same time, it's like I find their fans very, very, let's just say, they're passionate. I'll give them that. They're very passionate, but they're also very annoying. And
Redskins fans?
Eagles fans. I have no problem with the Redskins at all, to be honest with you. I have no problem with Redskins. It's the Eagles I have a problem with. So your stance on the Giants is where I stand on the Eagles, actually.
Well, it's the old NFC East thing. But the thing about the Giants is the pomposity of Parcells. And you remember when Redskins used to kick field goals, he would open the wind tunnel so the ball would swing wide left and right so he could win the game. And the worst of all are the Giant fans who claim that the Redskins won one or two Super Bowls in strike seasons. That makes makes my head explode. So we should get off this topic.
Okay. Well, real quick, stay on the Redskins. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? Are you okay? Well, they're probably going to end up franchising him this for one more year. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? Do you think Kirk Cousins is a long-term solution for you guys?
Yeah, I do. I think he's smart. I think he's athletic, and he proved that he's the guy. And in this age where it's so hard to find a quarterback, I think it's going to be harder for them to find a better one than Cousins. And like I'd say, I'm even more intrigued, quite frankly, about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I wrote a blog about.
Oh, you're a Jet fan now. That's right.
Well, here's what I was. Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of the smartest guys ever to play in the NFL. I don't know if you know that.
Harvard, yes.
Well, beyond that, I wrote a blog because I was intrigued about just how smart he was. He basically scored a 1580 on his high school SAT out of 1,600. How many NFL quarterbacks do that? You know, at the top 1% of his high school class is like 600 people.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Harvard, did well there, can do a Rubik's Cube extremely fast. I'm just intrigued by how smart that guy is, and I do think that they should hold on to him. I think he had a good year. I think he's going to continue to have good years, and I don't think they should bring in Colin Kaepernick.
I agree. I think outside that Week 17 debacle in Buffalo, which cost them a playoff spot, I think the Jets are in good shape.
Yeah, I'm big on that guy. I mean, he made it, right? He kept read about him. He said that so many people said he was never going to make it. Too small this, not athletic enough, and the guy persisted. And I just like the guy a lot.
Mm-hmm. When I say the name Steph Curry, what do you think? What comes to mind?
Immediately comes to mind is that Dean Smith and Roy Williams and Krzyzewski didn't think he was good enough to get a scholarship to their teams, and that really motivated him big time, and to prove those guys wrong, and that's exactly what he's doing. I think that he's very motivated and was probably ticked off when they said he wasn't good enough. I think I've been bothered by basketball in general, by bad shooting, by the AAU-ification of college and pro basketball.
Right.
The reason it bothers me is because I know from having played basketball back in the day in high school, pretty high level, that being a good shooter involves a lot of practice. And when you're not a good shooter, and I've seen a lot of it, that tells me you don't work that hard at your game, and that kind of turns me off. You got Curry, who obviously has raw talent as a shooter, but he's clearly worked on it big time. And it's paying off, and there's nothing more beautiful, in maybe in all the sports, than watching a 35-foot, step-back Jay swishing through the net. So he's bringing a lot of aesthetic beauty to the game of basketball that I think is great, and I love great shooting, and I'm not real big on a bunch of bricks, and he's the guy right now, and I think he's great for basketball. I love his hard work. There's nothing I don't like about Steph Curry.
What do you think about like all these NBA legends thumbing their nose at him, like Oscar Robertson, for example? By the way, one of the top 10 and 15 players of all time. His comments last week about Steph Curry, saying that he's hurting the game more than helping it. I mean, I think it's ludicrous. I think, look, full disclosure, even I, to some degree, love my nostalgia. But at some point, you have to acknowledge the greatness. And I get sick and tired of these people, these old school athletes who get threatened by their legacies when they see other players that, obviously that come in after them or a generation after them, start to do their thing. And then, like, these legends have a need to, like, knock them.
Well, Oscar's always had a chip on his shoulder, and he's done this more than once.
He did it with Jordan, too.
Well, Oscar has always wanted to basically make the point that he's the greatest player ever, and he thinks he was and is. And when these things come up, he likes to basically remind everybody of how great he was. And I think it's kind of Bush, to be honest with you. Sure, he's a great player, but his day is over. And why would you take a shot at Steph Curry?
Of all the guys, why Steph Curry?
Well, I guess because he figured that would get the most headlines. But I think it's Bush. And just, keep quiet and enjoy watching the guy play. I don't even understand his point. If you can shoot from 35 feet and make that many three-pointers and he's breaking all the records, I guarantee you Oscar Robertson couldn't shoot like him. Maybe that's, I don't know, go out and shoot better, Oscar. He wasn't that great. He wasn't even close to as good a shooter as Steph Curry.
Nobody is at this point now. I mean, and here's the thing. Oscar's comments wasn't even the worst one. Phil Jackson's comments yesterday on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that. Comparing,
I didn't catch it. What did he say?
He basically said that Steph Curry is comparable to Chris Jackson, a.k.a. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, of Denver Nuggets fame in the 90s, who was a very good player, by the way, for the record. But come on. Really, Phil? I mean, I think that New York Knicks air is starting to really get into his head now.
I don't understand that at all. Chris Jackson was never... I mean, he was a very good college player, by the way. First All-American.
That's right.
Really electrifying shooter, but you got to do it over a sustained period of time. And a lot of people talking about an unbelievable handle that Curry had. He worked on his ball handling like crazy. They're starting to compare him to Pete Maravich, but Maravich shot from as far away and made shots, but he's not as good a shooter in a pure sense. Was not as good a pure shooter as Steph Curry. You could make the argument, and that it would be a long discussion, but right now he's proving to be the best, maybe the best shooter in the history of the NBA.
I said that last year, and then this happened. I was saying that last year. I've seen Ray Allen. I saw Bird. I saw Reggie Miller. They're not even in the ballpark, Steph Curry. And the thing about Steph Curry, too, is that what makes him probably even better than those guys in terms of shooting the ball is that he can create his own shot to do that. Reggie Miller didn't create his own shot. He had to, it was in the system. He had to go off the screens. No, Steph Curry can, on his own, create his own shot and make threes. And he's been doing it, to a high ceiling for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And the thing about him is there's nothing flawed about his shot.
No, nothing.
It's as pure as it can be, and he's got a quick release. And as people say, nobody saw this coming that he would be this great. And I think it's attributable to hard work, shooting thousands of shots a day, And I love guys like that who spend a lot of time in the gym to get really good. And by the way, I mean, have you heard about this guy, Buddy Hield from Oklahoma?
No.
Well, he may be the National Player of the Year. He may be better than this guy from LSU.
Oh, Ben Simmons? Okay.
Right. Well, it's arguable. But in terms of, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not Michael Jordan, but he has sort of that electrifying athletic ability that Jordan had. And this is the point, the guy can shoot it from way out. He's had, I saw 9 30-plus games. The guy can really shoot it, and the cool story about him is last year he put his name in the NBA draft without an agent, and they said he's a second-round pick. So he felt a little insulted by that, and worked his tail off in the off-season, and he's going to be quite a star to watch in March Madness. His name is Buddy Hield, and the amazing thing is...
I'll check him out.
I'll double check him out. From way out. So he's going to be a first-team All-American. That guy... Well, he may be the most exciting guy entering March Madness.
You think he'll look for a draft?
Oh, he's going to be drafted in the top. He's going to be a lottery pick.
This year, like this coming summer.
Well, if he can come out after his second year, I don't know if he can, but if he can, he's going to be a lottery pick. Or after his third year, he's super quick, goes to the hole well, finishes well. And can get his own shot, can handle it, and he's really something. I think he's the story of college basketball this year.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, if you don't mind, I think that this guy Grayson Allen from Duke tripping guys twice.
Yeah.
Is also a really Bush move.
No
maybe
doubt.
Once. You know what? Remember, it's like Christian Leitner stepping on the guy's chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that mentality and the willingness to do that comes from hyper-competitiveness of Coach K putting them in their heads that, not anything goes, but do anything.
I'm going to say it. Duke players are a bunch of assholes. Let's call it what it is. Duke, sans Grant Hill. I think Grant Hill's a great guy. But I think everybody who comes from Duke are assholes. I hate Duke. I hate him with a passion. Sorry.
Yeah, well, when they do things like this, the guy was running that. Did you see the tape?
No, I heard about it, but I didn't see it. I heard about it, though. It was a big topic this morning on news.
About 2 weeks ago, he falls on the ground, like, after a rebound, and the guy's going down court, and he puts his leg out to trip him. That's one. Now, about 5 days ago, he's in the middle of the court or thereabouts, and a guy's going down court, and he puts his foot backward, and trips the guy going down court. And it's absolutely blatant, and you could not construe it to be anything else.
Right.
And I just think that's really Bush. I think he's a good player, but I think that, he's cocky. He plays for Duke. He's going to be a pro. He averages 20 a game. He's a big man on campus. High school All-American, but apparently he only got a slap on the wrist, and he didn't get a couple games suspension. I would do that. I would give him suspension. Otherwise, other guys are going to think they can trip people and just get a slap on the wrist.
All right, 2 more questions as you go. 2 more questions. Who is the most electable candidate right now on the docket from either side, Republican, Democrat? Who do you find the most electable candidate? Not who do you agree not who do you agree with, whatever. Who do you find the most electable? Like in terms of like this, it can be a facade too. Who do you find to be the most electable candidate of the ones left on the docket?
You mean the one who I think is going to win?
No. Who I think looks the part of the president of the United States.
That's a tough call.
That's a long. That means he didn't. Nobody probably.
If you were just to answer the question.
Just on face value.
Ted Cruz.
Okay.
Just in terms of looking, and I would say Hillary would be second. Just in terms of, most comparable to previous presidents. This is a free-ring circus. What's going on here? It's going to be fun for Sammy Sportface to keep writing about.
Yes, I can't wait.
And you know what? I think that people, I think the things that Trump says are things that they tell you not to say in sixth grade. And it's unbelievable what he says and gets away with. We've never seen anything like it. It's unprecedented. It's off the charts. It's off the hook. And yet America responds to it. Basically, he's the entertainment center.
He's a clown. He's a clown. He's a fucking clown. That's the way to put it. By the way, I encourage you, if you're a fan of this guy's show, John Oliver on the HBO, check out his recent episode from this weekend. He does a whole 20-minute spit on Trump. It is absolutely genius.
I think I may have caught some of that when he's making all sorts of fun of everything he said and all the lies and tweets.
Yes. Yeah. It's made the rounds on social media. It really has, and it's really good stuff. It's really good stuff a good show in general to watch anyway too. Last question, let you go here, man. Did you watch the Oscars last night?
No, I didn't.
Neither did I. Thanks for playing. Hey, Leo finally won though.
What's that?
Leo DiCaprio finally won his first Oscar. About time.
Yeah, that guy is unbelievably versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Give him all the credit in the world. He plays the pretty boy image in Titanic.
Yeah.
But what I love about him is he can play a role where they make him to look not like a pretty boy, and he does that just as well. In other words, he's secure enough to be made up to look not so good looking, and he'll act that way too. And that guy's one of the the great actors of our time.
Right.
And speaking of just one last thing, you think about Michael Jordan, who was the ultimate talent as a basketball player. In other words, if you drew up a definition in a person as a great basketball player, it's Michael Jordan, right? The way he looks and plays.
Right.
From what I know about Jennifer Lawrence, she's that, and not just in terms of looks, but apparently when she auditioned one time very early in her career, one of the directors, producers said it was the best audition they'd ever seen, and that she was going to be the next big Meryl Streep star of all of Hollywood. In other words, she just had it. She was a natural. Yes, she worked hard, but she just was born to be this great actress. And I don't know that she won last night, but she's really something else.
All I heard tea leaves wise was Leo won, Mad Max. That's all I know about last night's Oscars. Oh, and Stacey Dash was awkward.
That's funny. Let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
Going forward with Sammy, what would you like to see Sammy do? Just keep doing what Sammy's doing, or
definitely the election? Well, definitely the election. I mean, like I said, I'm a political junkie, more so in terms of the analysis, less about the X's and O's. Definitely the political stuff is definitely fun. I would recommend you try to get enough digs in with the last days of Cruz and Rubio and probably Sanders. Based on what we all think's going to happen. I mean, I'm already assuming. I'm already assuming Trump and Hillary is going to be the head-to-head matchup this summer.
Yeah, I wrote one, by the way, in the book about Hillary and Tom Brady and how we should all trust them. That he didn't know about Deflategate, and she didn't know about the email servers. I don't know if you call it that. And that we should leave the mother and father of our country alone.
Isn't Tom Brady backing Donald Trump anyway?
What's that?
Isn't Tom Brady backing Donald Trump?
I didn't hear that, but he probably is. If I do the politics, do you think it should leave in sports, or who the hell cares if it leaves in sports? I'm asking you. It's a sports site, right? So, you think people will just go for anything about those guys? Even if I don't think those matter as much. I think if you tag it with sports, one of the things you've done with some of these recent pieces too, and I've read, is that there's still a sports angle to it somehow. There's still somewhat of a relative, marriage to, okay, well, it is about Donald Trump, it's about this guy, but there's a sports angle to it.
I think it's genius, and I think it matters. I think people really care about that kind of stuff. I think one of the reasons why I love, even with my writing, because I don't only write about sports. I'm also big into pop culture. I'm big into music, and why should I limit myself to just being that guy? I mean, I'm big on diversity. I'm big on expression. So I think, I mean, as long as it's not to the point where you're, I would say, offending somebody or trying to tell somebody, hey, vote for this guy. I think it's all fair game.
What about Sammy Sportface writing about himself and his relationship to Garcia and how he doesn't want any of his blogs anymore? Is that of interest, or more about, the whole story of Sammy and he's not succeeding and all that? Is that of any interest?
I think the latter is actually more interesting. The latter.
You mean the politics?
Politics, yes. By far.
Interesting.
I like the politics side of it. I like talking about politics. I like it. It's fun. I like it.
But, just to end my note, baby, I've been thinking about the next blog soon of, Rubio was a defensive back, he was saying the other day, right? In college football.
He was?
And, yes. And they asked him what he wanted to really be when he grew up, president, and he said, no, I wanted to be in the NFL, which I thought was a pretty cool answer. And, but right now what he's got is he's got a wide receiver named Trump, and he can't cover him. He's getting beat deep. He's getting beat over the middle. He's getting beat.
And what's funny about that, I think, to answer the question I asked you earlier, I think of all the guys left on this whole thing, I think Rubio has the most presidential look in terms of the look. Like, he's kind of like Obama 2.0, but from a GOP perspective. He's marketable, good-looking guy. He has Hispanic vote. He has a section, but once again, he's it's what it is. Anyway. You can find Sammy Sportface at SammySportface.com or as well at NGSC Check out the new book. Excellent stuff, man. America's best sports blogger, in my opinion. One of the best ones, definitely. I love his work. Sammy, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. You take care, all right?
All righty. Bye-bye.
You got it. Bye.